Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be back today. I'm not at the dental office today. I'm actually back in my cottage and I am editing. Today is the last, hopefully, last day for major edits, going back to the editor today. And my due date was Saturday, so I'm 2 days ahead. Last time I was one day ahead. So excited. And he'll have one last pass. I'll have one last pass, and then it's done. And super exciting. Just got the title, so I'll be announcing that. Can't wait to show that, the title reveal. Soon will be coming, the cover art. It's just super exciting. And something that's even bigger is what this book's all about and how you can be involved. And I cannot wait to share all of this with you because it's huge. It's not just about you and your health. It's actually ways that you're going to be able to help other people with their health in the world as well, because it has a lot to do with charity and everything else and what your part can be in this. So I can't wait to share. I'm just so excited about this. I've just been editing literally right before I jumped on here. I've been editing information about how to soak legumes properly so that you can eat beans and still have them be healthy. I mean, just crazy things like that. The book's not about legumes at all, but there's an important part in it about how do we use plants for health. And that's part of it, is that there's, a lot of gurus and things these days that say legumes are bad. There's phytates, there's lectins, there's all of these things that are going to make you sick and you shouldn't eat them. And I disagree, because there are things that have been done for centuries to help mitigate some of this. So just bringing together that centuries old health information with today's latest research. And when I'm talking latest, I'm talking latest. A lot of my research articles that I've cited in here. In fact, I think it's like 249 research articles that I'm citing in the book. A lot of them are 2004 or 2024, or 2023, really recent things. So I just can't wait to get this to you guys. All right, let's dive into questions. I see that we're starting to get some here. What are the alternatives available instead of a root canal? It's interesting. I talked with a patient a lot. It seemed like all day long yesterday. This is all I talked about was root canals and how to mitigate this and what do you do instead. And really, like I've talked a lot about, the key is just what is the problem with the root canal? The benefit of a root canal is the tooth gets to stay in the head and you get to chew with it again. All of these things are positive. And this was all, developed just simply to help people keep their teeth. Unfortunately, there's no way to completely clean that tooth. And so there's dead tissue that remains inside of the tooth, and that dead tissue always attracts bacteria, other things. That's the problem, because that resistant and never-ending, basically chronic infection that never goes away, that leads to health issues, because your body has to deal with this infection. Anytime it's dealing with an infection, the immune system gets altered, gets changed, and things don't work as well. So what are alternatives to the root canal? Well, you can keep the tooth alive. If it's possible to still keep it alive. Yesterday, I saw a gentleman and he said, my tooth just killing me. It's so sensitive. I can't put anything cold on it at all. And I said, I'm actually happy to hear that because if you can't put anything cold on it, it tells me that the tooth still is alive. There still is nerve function in that tooth, and that's great news. I saw another woman yesterday that was a different story entirely. She said that for literally 9 years, she's been complaining that all along the jawbone here, it's just been sore, and it kind of comes and goes. It was never like, oh gosh, my horrible toothache. It just came and went. It would swell up sometimes, then it would go away. She'd been to see numerous dentists over the years. And she said she got to the point where she even just stopped telling dentists. They'd ask, how is everything? And she'd be like, oh, fine. She just stopped telling them because they just dismissed it and said, there's nothing there. I don't know what your problem is. Did a CT scan. And what do we find? The very back tooth was actually dead and abscessed. And it had been that way for quite a while, because there was a whole bunch of extra bone that had been growing around the ends of the roots, which told us that the body was trying to block off infection. So 2 different scenarios yesterday. Gentleman whose tooth was still sensitive. It was very, very sensitive to cold. Awesome. And in that situation, what are we going to do? We're going to try to keep it alive. So we're going to remove, he had a cracked tooth. He had a big old mercury filling that had expanded and created cracking, and he had a chunk missing. Great. We're going to remove all that old mercury. We'll remove the crack. We'll support all of that, cover it over. And we use ozone to kill the decay in the deepest portion so we don't have to uncover the nerve, and hopefully keep his tooth alive, and he'll be just fine. The woman whose tooth was already dead had been aching in the jaw for years. That's not a choice for her. There's no way to keep that tooth alive. It's already dead. And we do have a test that we do in office. It's called a vitality test, electric pulp test. And it actually just sends a little tiny vibration basically to the tooth. And if you can feel it, I say, raise your hand as soon as you can feel it. If you can feel it, means the tooth's still alive. If you can't feel it, means the tooth is dead. And we tested this woman's teeth. We tested 3 teeth in a row from forward to back. And, she felt this one, and then I went back to the very back one, and she sat there and she was like, "Are you doing it? Are you testing?" I said, "Yeah, I'm testing." Doing the exact same thing. You're not feeling it at all. That tells us it's dead. So in that situation, what are the options for her? Well, she can do a root canal. But we just discussed the problems with the root canal. You can't completely clean it. Or she can remove the tooth. You can remove the tooth and do nothing else. You can just leave the tooth out, depending on the tooth it is, or you can replace it. And there's many ways to replace it. My way, my preferable way, is a ceramic dental implant, because it's like you never lost the tooth. It goes right in where the tooth came from. If financially that doesn't work for you, for whatever reason, you can replace it with a dental bridge sometimes if there's a tooth in front and a tooth in back of the space. However, there's some intrinsic problems with dental bridges. Oftentimes you end up losing one or both of the teeth that's holding the bridge. Plenty of research showing this to be true. You could do something removable. So, a retainer with teeth on it, that kind of thing, called a partial denture. Or, like I said, do nothing. The key is don't let the infection stay. Get the infection out. So those are the options or alternatives for a root canal. Keep the tooth alive if it's still feeling something, or remove and replace it if it's not. Or a root canal, always an option. Legally, I'm actually obligated to tell you a root canal is an option, and it is. It's always an option. But I just also feel like I'm morally obligated to tell you my issue with root canals and what I see on a daily basis. Okay, I just had extractions. The VA paid 100% rated, no more crown, need more crowns, decay, concern. Using xylitol mints and the AM, pain not going away, not sure which direction to go. That is really frustrating. Anytime you have decay that's rapidly advancing, I always like to talk about that and say, okay, what's going on? Xylitol mints is great, because what the xylitol does is it allows, for something in the mouth. Oftentimes rapid decay is due to dry mouth, and so mints will help. Xylitol won't cause cavities, so that's why it's the preferred mint for tooth decay, at least to prevent tooth decay. You definitely need to figure out what's going on with your gut. So I would recommend the baking soda test to see, are you absorbing nutrients? If not, you need to start working on that. Go online, go to my website. You can find baking soda test, gut health guide, all that information for free on there. Go check it out, because if you're getting tooth decay, it's either you're not brushing your teeth, but usually that's actually not the concern, because people that come to see me, especially, they're like, I do brush my teeth. You can see, and I can see. Or you're not absorbing nutrients properly. So your body literally is stealing them from the teeth and the bones to be able to keep the brain and the heart functioning. You can't see your bones, but we can see your teeth, and that's what we start to see. So bones are going to be in a similar situation. Any insight on how a zirconia implant also blocks the meridian? One of the dentists associated with the root cause was talking about this. So what a meridian is just an electrical channel, basically, the electrical conduction channel in the body. Well, zirconia is non-conductive. So in my research and in my experience, it doesn't block the meridian because it's non-conductive, it's non-metallic. So I would have to see some research proving otherwise. That's not my belief and not my understanding. Any experience with getting dental services covered by medical insurance? Or there are very few diagnoses that are considered to fall under medical coverage? Yeah, this is a very gray zone. Medical insurance doesn't want to touch it. Dental insurance says it's not ours either. So unfortunately, we get very little coverage from medical insurance. We sure wish we did, but they don't touch it. If it involves the mouth, they say, nope, that's dental. And dental says, but this has nothing to do with the tooth. It has everything to do with their health. So they all disagree and nobody pays. I wish that weren't the case. All right. Let's jump on a couple of these over here. We already answered that one. My son, who is 3.5, needs some dental work done. They want to do a pulpotomy on him, sedated along with some fillings. They prefer to keep the tooth and extract. Is that okay for a baby tooth? Yes, especially in a 3.5-year-old. And the 3.5-year-old, if they're doing a pulpotomy, it's a tooth that's probably going to be there for a little while. So that's exactly the treatment plan I would recommend, with sedation, pulpotomy, and some fillings. You're going to want to keep a close eye on that pulpotomy. So what is a pulpotomy? It's basically a little kid's version of a root canal. The nerves in baby teeth are very different. They're very high, first of all. So a cavity gets to the nerve very quickly. And the nerve in the tooth will actually, it won't regenerate, but often it will stay alive down in the root portion, even if it's medicated in the top portion. So a pulpotomy works to save the tooth for a little while. Again, you're going to watch very closely and look for a pimple on the gum next to it. Pimple or just red swelling, that means that pulpotomy has failed. Now it's time to lose that tooth. I'm having an old root canal tooth pulled out soon. How can I prepare my body for this procedure? Okay, so that's a great question. What you're wanting to make sure of is that your body, your immune system, first of all, is ready to get rid of all of that infection that's been underneath that tooth. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do. What do you do to do that? I like to increase all sorts of things that strengthen the immune system. So this is echinacea, elderberry, oregano, type into Google, what are herbs for immune strength? And you're going to want to increase all of that. You're also going to want to make sure that vitamin D3 and K2 levels are high enough to actually help to heal the bone. So I would just start taking vitamin D3, K2 at about 10,000 IUs. If you go on my website, that's the strength that we have it there for a reason. That's not an everyday, all your life dose. That's hey, we're trying to regrow a jawbone here and we need more. And so that's the dose for healing along with the tooth and bone formula. And I know it's back ordered. Believe me, I know. We are working with a new manufacturer. It'll be here in a month or two, but we just cannot get it. I don't know why we can't get it. So a mineral supplement, a broad spectrum mineral supplement is what you want along with the vitamin D and K. What can I give him before and after sedation age with the procedure? So we're still talking about that 3.5-year-old. If you go on and look, you'll find homeopathics that help to clear things from the body faster. So I would just look for a homeopathic remedy, and I don't know every single one of them. So look it up, homeopathic remedy to help clear sedation, basically sedatives, anesthesia, and you'll find something that'll help clear that body pretty quickly. How often do I recommend cleanings? Well, that is 100% dependent on your mouth. So if you have had in the past gum disease, then you need cleaning every 3 months. Why? Well, if you've had gum disease or have gum disease, what that means is the jawbone is literally shrunk away from the teeth. And so you have a lot of nooks and crannies and places the bacteria are going to hide. Bacteria repopulate every 90 days, every 3 months. So you're going to absolutely have bacteria in places you don't want them living because you're going to get more bone loss if they live there every 90 days. So that's why we say, if you've had gum disease or have gum disease, we need to clean your teeth every 90 days, every 3 months, because that's how often it takes. And that's how long it takes for the bacteria to basically rebuild their houses and move back in again. We have to help you get it cleaned off again. Now, if you've never had gum disease, if you don't have gum disease currently, if you've never had any sort of gum problem whatsoever, if we do a gum exam and there is no bleeding, no inflammation, no bone loss, then you know what? You could probably go a lot longer than that from a gum standpoint. If you've never had a cavity in your mouth, you could probably go longer because you've never had one. So it's based on your risk profile, where you're at. Now, let's say you got pregnant and you just had a baby 18 months ago, 2 years ago, whatever it might be, and you're expecting again. Oh my goodness, you should not wait even longer than 6 months. 6 months is as long as I would ever go because your body is going to be prone to more tooth decay. If you've got a teenager, a kiddo that's growing bones, they're going to be more prone to tooth decay. Absolutely, every 6 months at the minimum. It's just all about risk. It's all about risk. Now, how often do I get my teeth cleaned? Well, I actually clean them myself. I clean them myself every few months. Anytime I feel a little tartar, I'll clean a little bit. But I don't actually have one of my hygienists clean it maybe every couple of years. Why? Because I don't get tartar. I don't have gum disease, and I've never had a cavity. So what would I need looked at? So she'll look every couple of years and she'll be like, oh, you look exactly the same as last time. Yep, exactly. Because I'm really good at keeping my teeth clean on my own. That's just what I do. I brush very well. I floss very well. I just take really good care of myself. So it's all about risk factor. It's all about how often you should get them cleaned. Is there going to be a restock of the tooth and bone? Yes, like I just said, yes, there's going to be a restock. We are just working, literally, we cannot get anywhere. So we have a new manufacturer. They're just working through the formulation. We just got documents on it. Unfortunately, none of this happens quickly, but we are working hard on it. Like I said, use a broad spectrum mineral supplement. There's some liquid ones that are pretty good. My actually favorite one is from Mother Earth Labs, and it's called humic and fulvic acid. I know that's a big, long word, but that's my favorite one, and it can be used for adults and kids alike. On the horizon, wait, you'll see, I actually have our own humic and fulvic acid coming out, and the cool thing about it is it's powder. Because the problem with the liquid one is, first of all, it's kind of expensive to ship it to you. You have to pay, a lot of shipping. So anything liquid's quite expensive, and you just can't get enough. You can't get very much, So we're actually doing it in a powdered form. You'll add the powder to The water, you can use it for kids, you can use it for adults. Coming soon, on its way. My 3-year-old appears prone to cavities. Holistic dentist seeking a naturopath doctor, but what tests can be run to figure out the connection with gut health and tooth health? So you're going to do the baking soda test. And even a 3-year-old can do the baking soda test. You're going to do for them probably 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda in like a 1/4 cup of water and drink it. Hopefully they'll drink it, but it doesn't taste too bad. Drink it, and then you're going to see how long they take to burp. The concept is if you burp in 2 to 3 minutes, you have adequate stomach acid. If it takes longer than that to burp, most likely you don't have enough stomach acid. So what do you do in a kiddo? Well, first of all, you're going to really pay attention to what they're eating along with food. I can do a deep dive on this, but there's a lot of things that need to happen. So you can actually add acid. On a 3-year-old, it's a little trickier, but you can add acid along with meals. So squeeze a lemon on top of things. Add a tomato, add some pineapple. Even just that is going to help to break apart the food a little bit better. And you're probably just going to need a supplement. So vitamin D3, K2, there's a liquid version on our site, and that Mother Earth Labs humic and fulvic acid that I was just talking about would be exactly what I would give my 3-year-old. I ordered your sensitive tooth powder and began using it this week. My teeth did not used to bleed when brushing, and they began bleeding every time I brushed when using the powder. Nothing else changed. Why would this be the case? Really interesting. So sometimes it's the essential oils. We use a mint essential oil for flavoring because that's the only kind of flavoring we would want to use. But what it's most likely doing is kind of stirring things up, but not necessarily in a bad way. Stirring things up and getting things a little bit more active. Sometimes it'll be healthy on the very top, but not healthy underneath in the past. And this is kind of bringing things to the surface. So I would keep going another couple weeks and the bleeding should subside and then disappear completely. If it doesn't, then that's time to say, maybe I should back off and use the citrus formula or something like that. Plus the mint mouthwash, which is phenomenal for sensitivity. So watch it and see, but most likely it's kind of stirring some things up from deep and bringing them up and everything's going to resolve. I got a failed root canal pulled. Is it imperative to have an implant put in place, or can I leave the gap since it doesn't bother me? So we talked about that just a little earlier. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. You can leave it without anything there if you'd like, and that's absolutely an alternative. I had a root canal treatment and the endodontic material came out of the root. I had a toothache. We had the tooth extracted, then removed the endodontic material, and it still hurts. 3 months have passed. Okay, so what you're talking about is you had an old root canal, you had the tooth pulled, there was still filling material down even in the bone, which often will happen. It'll squirt down past the end of the root into the jawbone. You had that removed and it still hurts. What that means is the bone is not healing properly. So that is what we call a bony cavitation, or an area where the jawbone hasn't healed right. It should not hurt 3 months past time. So you need to find somebody, hopefully somebody near you that can do ozone in that area. You need ozone. There's probably something still left in there, either infection or some of that endodontic material. And then you need to have stem cells placed. And what you're going to ask for is PRF. So again, hopefully you can find somebody in your area that can go back into that, clean it out, make sure there's nothing still left in there, ozone, and then place PRF so it will finally heal. Is it possible for an old root canal tooth to cause ringing in the ears? Okay, so in a roundabout way, yes. And then what is the roundabout way? The old root canal tooth can be infected, can cause swelling, which can cause inflammation. Inflammation can lead to ringing in the ears. So is there a direct correlation? Perhaps, but you have to take a few steps to get there. So I'll never tell somebody your root canal caused your ringing in the ears. But a lot of times people say when you took the root canal out, the ringing in the ears went away. Why? Because we decreased inflammation. How can TMJ be improved by adjusting the cervical spine? All right, so cervical spine and TMJ are very intricately connected in numerous ways. First of all, just the physiology here is here and here, right? But also neurology. So the nerves that pass through one also pass through another. So you'll get a lot of cross function between the two. So can you improve the spinal issues to improve here? Yes, if what it's doing is correcting posturally, correcting neurologically, and correcting muscularly what's happening in this neck. It may alleviate symptoms here. I typically find you need to do both. We need to do work on the jaw joint to stabilize everything, and work on the spine to stabilize it at the same time. But if you're getting benefit for the joint because you worked on the spine, awesome. I just usually see both of those things too working together. I had a bridge about 10 years ago. What should I do about it now? Do I need to get a new one? You need to just have it checked. If you had a bridge 10 years ago, you need to have it checked very closely. What happens with a bridge is, okay, so let's say this is your bridge. You've got 1, 2, 3 teeth connected together. Well, when I bite here, what happens to the other side? It pops up. When I bite here, what happens to the other side? It pops up. And so this popping up like that, if we bite here, this one pops up. This popping up, what it does is it breaks the seal of the cement on the tooth that's holding the bridge in place. Oftentimes it's not enough to make the bridge loose, so you can't tell, but the cement is now leaking, the seal is leaking, and you get bacteria underneath the bridge, and it will create new tooth decay. So just have a dentist check it very closely. Make sure there's no decay on that anywhere. And it has to be more than an x-ray, because sometimes the material itself is kind of blocking out things on the x-ray. So you have to literally run an instrument all around the edge very, very carefully, cautiously, and make sure. If it's still fine, leave it alone. Leave it alone. I did have a bridge actually here where I'm missing a tooth, and I did have it replaced and had a dental implant placed, largely because I was sick of the bridge. I was sick of flossing differently and all sorts of things, and largely because now it was possible. At first it wasn't possible, but that's always an option too. You can have the bridge removed and have an implant placed. You just keep the crowns that are holding the bridge in place on those 2 teeth. We cut the bridge and take out the middle one and put an implant right in there. So that's a possibility too. Is the remineralizing tooth powder okay for kids, 4 years old? Lots of cavities. Yes, absolutely. That's what it's for. In fact, the kids version, it's orange now. This is an older label, but the kids version is just the remineralizing tooth powder in citrus flavor. That's all it is. It's the exact same thing. Absolutely. Brush with it, but also use it as a paste. So you take a little bit more powder, get some water with it, make a paste, and rub it anywhere that there's a cavity starting. Just get minerals right into it. How do you use the MI paste with your mineral tooth powder and mouthwash? So you don't actually need to. MI paste it's kind of like you use one or you use the other. So I would just use the tooth powder and the mouthwash is all I would do. That's all I do. That's all I recommend day in and day out. So you don't need the MI paste if you're using the tooth powder and the mouthwash. Use the tooth powder normally, brush with it. You can even use it, just like I said, as a paste at night to put it right on the spots you're concerned about after you mouthwash. So you brush, mouthwash, put it on like a paste. I cracked tooth number 2 up the tooth canal. I was told I had to remove it and have an implant. If you broke it all the way up the root, that is the answer. Remove the tooth and replace it with dental implant. You don't have to have an implant. Remember, you can leave the tooth out. You can do nothing, but the tooth does need to come out. I went to my dentist. He said, I don't need a root canal. Put a crown on now. I have an abscess under. If you have a dead tooth, so if the tooth is dead, there is no sensation and there is infection, meaning the nerve inside of the tooth has become infected and there is an abscess, you absolutely need either a root canal or to have the tooth removed and replaced. So you can put a crown on it all you want, but that doesn't fix the underlying issue. It's just kind of like putting a new roof on a house that has termite damage. Really? You want to put that time and effort and money into it? No, because you might lose the whole thing. Address the root issue first, literal root issue in this case. What species of pathogenic bacteria are being found in jaw cavitations or at the base of root canals? How do you reduce LWAD? Basically different ones, and which ones contribute more to MCAS? All right, so deep question. There are a lot. In fact, I have an incredible spectrum of things that we have biopsied out of both root canals and at the end of jawbone holes or cavitations. Everything from bacteria to virus to fungus to parasites and to amoeba swimming around in there. So I can't even rattle off a list because there's literally hundreds that I've had biopsied out of these before. We see most everything. And the way that we reduce the bacteria is going and cleaning those spots out. So we take out the tooth, we ozone underneath it, we PRF, and then we give your body what it needs to heal, which is vitamin C, which is some homeopathics that speed up the healing process. The exact same thing happens when there's a jawbone area that didn't heal. We open it up, we scrub it clean, we ozone, we PRF, that's the stem cells, and then we help your body to heal. So it actually doesn't matter which variety it is as much as what are you doing to get rid of it. And then how does this affect MCAS? I see a lot of people with MCAS. Actually, it seems to be on the rise, which always makes me then ask questions. I'm a questioner, and I always say, well, why? Why is it on the rise? What's going on? And I think it's of my belief that it's because of all of the things that we're exposed to in our world today. So this goes from everything from And I'm sure if you have MCAS, you've learned about the excipients, which are the things that are in the product. So let's say you're even taking a supplement, whatever it might be, you're taking a supplement, and what other things they've added to that supplement to make it a tablet or a capsule or, powdery, those things maybe you may be sensitive to. So because we have so many things in our world that are just bombarding the body, it's not dealing with things nearly as well anymore. So I find it matters less the thing or the strain and more just the fact that it's there. And it's one more thing tipping the bucket over for the body. And now you get this mast cell activation or hyperimmune response. I found this with filling materials. I found this with titanium dental implants. We found this with infection in the jawbone at the end of the root canal. I found it with all of them because they all put a stress and strain on the immune system. And that's the key for MCAS. If you take enough stress and strain off, all of a sudden the immune system goes, I'm chill now. I'm not going to do this anymore. But if you put enough on, it can't handle anything anymore. I just received my first jar of remineralizing tooth powder. My teeth feel so much better, cleaner, and my whole mouth feels better. Love it. Super excited. Thank you so much for sharing. I went to a biologic dentist today with a severe toothache. I was presented with an option for a root canal and crown versus extraction for a far back molar, going with the extraction. Good idea. That's what I would do as well for a far back molar. Thoughts on metal caps for kids and alternatives? There are alternatives actually in our office. So in our pediatric dental practice called Total Care Kids, we do zero metal at all. We're completely metal free. There are zirconia crowns that you can get for kiddos. I don't love metal. The only thing that I do say, the only caveat is it is a stainless steel metal. So it's better than mercury. It is in the mouth temporarily, but we don't love it. So we offer completely metal free options. Would you recommend SDF to treat kids' cavities? So SDF stands for sodium diamine fluoride. I do not, because we are completely fluoride free in our office. And what it does is it turns the tooth black, literally black. Anywhere you treat it that has any sort of decay at all will turn black, and it does not wash off nor go away. So it will be black forever. So I'll see these poor little kids that have just like black covering their front teeth because they've been treated with SDF. Well, the better thing to do is treat it with hydroxyapatite, which is get the kids' tooth powder and make a paste out of it, rub it into those spots, do this every single day. What they also have found with SDF is it treats the surface bacteria, but it actually doesn't treat deeper bacteria. So you're not going to get very deep with it, and the bacteria continue to grow underneath. What about wisdom teeth? Do they really need to be removed? It's all about space. Our mouths are too small these days. That's why we all end up with braces and no room for our teeth and having to have wisdom teeth out. This is nutrition-based, 100% nutrition-based. I teach about that with Dr. Weston Price. Everything else, it's affecting the way our mouths are growing. So if you don't have room in your mouth for the teeth, then yes, we still recommend taking them out. We do it very carefully. We use ozone and those stem cells that I was talking about to make sure that those areas heal properly. But if there's room, we leave them be. So it's all about space. So what do? We actually like to jump ahead of the curve. We like to look at 4-year-old, 5-year-old kiddos and direct their growth so that they have room for all their teeth. For teeth, they don't need orthodontic care sometimes. They have room for their wisdom teeth because they're growing correctly. So we help direct the growth, and we talk to them about nutrition and how they can help direct the growth that way. So if you're already past that ball game, if you're already past 4 to 5 years old, or even 10, 12, we still work with growth during all those years. But if you're at, that 19-year-old time, it's time to talk about wisdom teeth. It's all about space. How do you feel about laser treatment versus surgical treatment for cavitations? All right. So this is going to be from my research and largely from my experience. What I found when I actually have opened up these areas to treat the area is that there's stuff in there. There's dead tissue. And if you hear anybody talk about what is the cause or source or reason that these cavitations form, it's because there's something in the jawbone. There's something left behind, whether it be ligament or tooth or bone or, something. There's something in there. So if you just laser it, you're not removing the something. So I equate this if you have a sliver in your finger. You can put all the neosporin on there you want. You can laser it all you want, and it might look better, but it's always going to be inflamed underneath as long as the sliver's still there. So that's why we surgically open these up, because I want to go in and clean what's there. I want to get the dead stuff out. And then we add back, we ozones, we disinfect everything very, very thoroughly. And then we add back stem cells and sometimes even bone graft material if this hole is large enough. And actually, I've seen enormous response, amazing response, adding back some bone graft material. So I don't feel like it's an equal treatment. I don't feel like you can just shine a laser on there and do any of the things I just said. You can't clean it, you can't disinfect it, and you can't fill it back up again. So I don't do it. We do it surgically. Do you ever do crowns? We do crowns. Absolutely. There's a couple of instances we would do crowns. Actually, three main ones I can think of. Number one, you have a large old filling, even a large old mercury filling. You have a broken tooth. You have something, and there is literally almost no tooth left to hold on to. We're going to do a crown because we want to save the tooth. So we build it up with filling material, then we put a crown over top. Why? There's just nothing left to hold on to. You have to have something to hold on to, and you have to have something covering over and protecting. Otherwise, you're going to lose the tooth. So that's instance number one. Instance number two is you already have a crown, and that crown has metal underneath it, or you have a new cavity or something underneath it. Once a crown, always a crown. So that one's going to be a crown. The third reason is, let's say I see you and you have all sorts of cavities all over your mouth. You have cavities on the chewing surface, in between your teeth, at the gum line. And I look at this tooth and I think, okay, I could do a filling, but you have a cavity at the gum line. So now you're going to have a filling here, a filling here, a filling here. Well, I have really left a very unsupported tooth that you're going to probably break at some point in the future. The other problem is if you are cavity prone, and let's say you pay for something called an onlay, which is what I prefer if possible, which just covers a portion of the tooth. And then you come back 2 years from now, you've got a cavity on another surface. What you just paid for that onlay just went down the tube because we're doing a crown now. So if I see that you're really highly cavity prone, we're going to do a crown because I want to prevent you needing any work in the future. So those are the three biggies that just right off the top of my head I can think of. We do crowns, absolutely. What is the best and fastest way to help and reverse tooth decalcification? Tooth powder, mouthwash, 100%. Use it as a paste. Use the tooth powder as a paste. So you're going to brush with a tooth powder, rinse with a mouthwash, go back to the tooth powder, make a paste, and put it right on the spot. Right on the spot. Rub it right into there. Then I love vitamin D3, K2 on the inside, as well as tooth and bone formula or the gift, like I've been talking about all day today. What materials in dentistry may expose us to estrogen or PFAs through long-term leaching or exposure to acids? So the only material that's really going to cause no estrogen issues, thankfully, but well, BPAs some, mainly is going to be sealant materials and white filling materials. However, research does not show that there's long-term leaching because the chemical structure of the filling material changes as it hardens. We actually use a light and something called a photoinitiator inside of that filling material. So it's kind of gel-like, it's moldable, kind of like Play-Doh to begin with. We put it in, and then we shine this special wavelength of light. It's actually a laser light on it. It initiates that photoinitiation chemical reaction, and it hardens, which research is showing keeps all of those concerning things from leaving. It just changes the structure of it. Now I'm still watching research. I'm going to be the one that's going to jump on this very first. However, this is a better option than a mercury filling 10 billion times over. So that's what we do right now. And we're watching research to see what's happening with it over the long run. Are old metal amalgam fillings toxic to the body? 100%. That metal is released from the filling 24/7, low dose, and it is impacting you. What does mercury impact? Gut, brain, nerves, the big three. What are great ways to increase nitric oxide in the mouth right after using a mouthwash if you must swish with it? So interestingly enough, gargling does increase nitric oxide on its own. So put it back there and gargle, and you're actually going to be able to increase some nitric oxide right there. My upper molar is in my sinus cavity. What needs to happen to close the sinus after the tooth is removed? That's what we use those stem cells or PRF for. It actually acts like a sinus barrier or a sinus band-aid. So we use stem cells for that. Do I like fluoride sealants for 8-year-old molars or non-fluoride sealants? I prefer non-fluoride. I don't want fluoride leaching into the body. And again, research is kind of out on this, but I prefer, if there's an option, to use the non-fluoride version. When I fill a baby tooth or pull it if it causes pain before the adult tooth comes in. It's all about age. How old is this child? If the child is 10 and the tooth is going to be out at 12, take it out of there. If the child is 2 and the tooth is going to be out at 12, leave it in there. So it's all about how old is the child. Any thoughts on using pearl powder as a supplement? I've heard of this, but I actually have never done it or never done any research. So I'll be watching that one too. Can you reverse 10 cavities on kids with a tooth powder and mouthwash? It's all about size. All about size. So how deep are they? And kids' cavities progress pretty quickly. If you were in my office and we were seeing this kid with 10 cavities, we would actually do ozone treatment on all of those, and we would see you back in 3 months, and we would do ozone treatment again, and we would see, has it resolved? And if it hasn't resolved, then we'd probably talk about which ones we need to fill. My sister has metal fillings and metal crowns. This is all Medicaid. Could it be causing health issues? It could be. You can't prove it. And if Medicaid isn't going to cover it, then they probably aren't going to do much about it, unfortunately. But it definitely does potentially cause issues. All right, I am over. Oh, I thought root canals are no good, but I do want to touch this one. But someone just said that was what was recommended on molars. No, I do not recommend root canals. Legally, I have to. Legally, I have to tell you that that is an option for a tooth if it is abscessed or died. Is that an option for you as a root canal? Do I do root canals? I do not. I have not done a root canal in 10 years. Would I do a root canal? I would not. On my family member, on myself, on no one. I see too many failed root canals. There are options, and that option is remove and replace that tooth. So I do not do root canals, but legally I have to tell you that that is an option for a tooth. So that's just kind of the way it works. Okay, thank you all. Such amazing questions today. I appreciate it. I will be back on here next week. I'll give you an update on the book as well. And I just love all that you're asking and all that you're doing. Thank you.